This is going to be a little bit different video. I want to start off by saying that I don't want my channel to be a video where I just dig on companies, because that's not what I'm about. So I put a lot of thought into this before I released this video. And I wanted to just give you all the facts and what happened with me. You may not have this same experience, I don't know, but this was my experience, and this is why I won't do business with L&W Fabrication anymore. Back on Black Friday, I ordered high clearance trailing arms, high clearance radius arms, the rear sway bar links. I ordered the set of 4 A-arms that are high clearance, and they're also forward. I didn't really care about forward, but I wanted all high clearance stuff for rock crawling for what we do. All from L&W. They had a killer like 25% off discount or something like that for Black Friday. So I went ahead and did it. I've got a buddy that's got L&W stuff. Seems legit. I did some research. I did find some stuff online with people complaining about their customer service and some fitment of like cages and things like that. I didn't really read anything about fitment issues for arms or any of their suspension parts. But you gotta be careful what you read online, right? Because you never know. Somebody maybe just doesn't know what they're doing when they put something together, and maybe that's the issue that they have. I don't know. So I was careful. Like, I could read bad things about every company. But I was really looking at between Off-Road Beast, because I've had their stuff, it's legit. L&W, I've never had theirs, but I've had buddies that had their stuff and it seems pretty legit. CA Tech, but it's really expensive. A bit out of my price range for what I wanted to pay. ECC Fab, which is another one. It's like a newer one. They look super legit. I watched videos. Those guys also had some different issues, whatever. I'm sure all these companies have, but they like owned up to it and they got things repaired from what I'm reading online. Another company that's like really expensive though is at ECC. They're nice, I'm sure they're worth it, but it was just, I put a bunch of money into this. You've seen the videos of me building it, and I don't have the endless amount of money, so I started running out of money. I went with L&W because of the discount that they had, and I had buddies that ran their stuff. So I had other options. I ended up going with L&W. They had everything that I wanted, high clearance, everything. So I decided to go with it. And from when I started installing ball joints on the A-arms, I started running into problems. On January 1st, I emailed L&W, and I still had not had my trailing arms. So everything else had shipped. I didn't get those yet. They ran into some issues with the machine. It happens, I understand that. So they were delayed on the trailing arms. And I had asked them an update on the trailing arms, and also told them that the powder coating on the A-arms was chipping off. So the powder coat around the upper A-arm ball joint cups, as soon as you would go to press a ball joint on, the powder coat just chipped off. And if you looked underneath it, there was no like, they didn't sand the material or whatever. I'm not sure if L&W does their powder coating. And it's not, the powder coat thing wasn't like a huge deal for me, because this thing is gonna be bouncing off of rocks, whatever. But still, when you're first installing it and you spend this much money on stuff, you don't want the powder coat to just be coming right off, because then that makes you really worry about what else you're gonna run into. That was on January 1st, I emailed them. And I asked them, I said, what can we do about correcting that? You know, I'm nervous about powder coat on the rest of the parts. They asked for pictures on the second. On the second, I responded with pictures and a video. And then they had responded back to me on the second. They said, is it only on the ball joint cups? I said, yep, so far yes, that's the only thing that I noticed. And then they responded back and they said we had issues with our machine on the trailing arms, and they had got into all this detail about the trailing arms. They never said anything about the powder coat again. So then I just responded, you know, thanks for the update on the trailing arms. Never heard back from them. So on the 12th, I emailed them back. I said I ran into another problem with the A-arms. First, the powder coating on the ball joint cups, just as a reminder. They're a company, I understand that maybe they ran into issues, they're short-staffed, whatever. I'm like trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? So I'm not hounding them, like demanding things. I'm just asking. Like, I spent a lot of money with these guys. I've spent $4 grand, more than $4 grand or somewhere around there with all of these parts. So I emailed them back on the 12th. The powder coating on the ball joints was the first problem. Now I have interference with the axle shaft and the lower arm at full suspension droop. You guys seen my videos, you've seen the issues I ran into with that. We gotta take the front suspension back apart again. We haven't even used it yet. So I put spacers in here And even with those spacers in there, this thing is still touching that weld down at the bottom, see? So this was when the machine had 3 miles on it. I never took it out. I had it on the lift like it is right now behind me, testing everything out because I'm reluctant to trust people because you run into issues like this. I reminded them that this is a brand new machine with 3 miles on it. It's not like it's been wrecked or it's been put back together, something's janky, whatever. It is brand new. I got it from the dealer, drove it onto a trailer, drove it off the trailer into the shop and tore it apart. I told them both the driver and the passenger is interfering, sent them a bunch of pictures, see? I had told them that my alignment was 2 degree positive on camber, so I couldn't even get to 0 or a little bit negative is where I wanted it to be. And I told them that I've got everything ripped apart and this thing needs to get back together because I already had a trip planned, which I did have a trip planned. And I told them at this point, I'm not very impressed with L&W so far. I'd like to discuss getting a refund of some sort. So that was on the 12th. 15th, didn't hear anything back from them, so I emailed them back. I said, hey, just trying to figure something out with you guys here. Their response, so they did respond on the 15th after I emailed them back. What would you like for a refund? They didn't say anything else, so here you go. What would you like for a refund? They didn't say anything else. There's no other response. No other like, hey, sorry, you're having issues with interference. We've noticed this. We've had these complaints. People said this. Maybe did you install something backwards, you idiot? I don't know. Like, call me out. If I'm dumb, call me out. So then I got back with them after they asked how much money do you want back, and I said exactly this. I went with you guys for this build based off of parts you produce, seeing parts online and some in person, they seem like quality items. I ran into some problems. I'm happy to share what I did to correct issues thus far, but it doesn't seem like you're interested in knowing the problem, and that is disappointing to me. But I don't know what you have going on your end, so there really is not a lot of reason for me to get too upset. I have modified to accommodate for axle clearance issue, and thus far I believe I should be good. I since ran into powder coat issues, clearance issues, and now tire clearance issues before even taking it out of my shop. I'd like a 50% refund on the arms. I was trying to be reasonable. I mean, I guess I could have asked for all of my money back. I don't know. On the 16th, I got an email. Refund issued. Once again, they didn't try and communicate anything to me. Man, we're sorry you're running into problems. What can we do to help correct it? We'll send out different arms. Will you send us pictures to help us on? Nope, none of that. So then on the 16th, I responded, okay, thank you. As far as the trailing arms, are you still thinking that I'll have them January 20th? Because that's what they had said. They said yes. That's all they responded with, is on the 16th, they said yes. On the 23rd, I still didn't hear anything from them, or I didn't receive the arms, didn't receive an email for tracking, whatever. I asked, were you able to get the machine repaired to produce the trailing arms? Yes, we're currently shipping them out as we get them done. That was on the 23rd. I responded on the 23rd, awesome. That was it. They never once reached out to me, hey, you know, the issues that we're having, whatever. I guess that they were just like, oh, he just wants some money back. Maybe he's not being truthful. I don't know. You guys seen the videos. I couldn't make it up. Why would I create this problem for myself? So that's all the information I have with emails back and forth with L&W. I sent pictures. I sent videos. With my videos that I already posted on YouTube, I was really careful with how I, you know, ran into issues and how I corrected issues and kind of what I had said, because I was there's a lot that I edited out that I was really, you know, upset with this company. But anyways, so now we're gonna get into this video. So you're gonna see bits and pieces of where I ran into problems when we're installing stuff. You're gonna see how I modified stuff. You're gonna hear me talk about me getting with L&W and whatever. And then you're gonna see the resolution at the end of the video as to like, what am I doing about it? When you buy aftermarket stuff, you're gonna run into some problems. Not every single machine is identical. These things have a lot of variances in them compared to, like, I don't know, a Ford pickup or something that they mass produce millions of them. Now, I'm not dogging Polaris or I'm not dogging Ford. I'm just saying that there's some differences and there's like little bits of play here, and they're not perfect. It's not like a hand-built, you know, multi-million-dollar machine. It's an expensive machine, but they just slap them together, get them to a dealership, and get them sold. I found stuff on this that was loose coming from Polaris. I'm not calling out to Polaris and bitching at them about it. I get it. There's we run into issues. People have days where they forget to do shit at work, and I'm sure that the guys at Polaris that forgot to tighten some of the bolts on here, or even some of the other issues that I ran into. There's for good reason, they got sidetracked or whatever. I'm not calling them and bitching, but I am pretty upset with this company, L&W. I will not do business with them anymore. I'm still deciding what I'm gonna do about the trailing arms. I finally did get them. I don't know if I want to install them or not, because I don't know if I'm gonna run into issues. Figured since I got them, I might as well try and install them, see what I run into. I think if I run into any issues at all, they're just gonna come right back off of there. But I'm sorry, it's like a lot of ranting, a lot of information there, but I don't want my channel to be a channel where I'm complaining about companies. My channel is like, show you guys what I do for fun and how to do things and modify things and fabricate things. Sometimes you have to fabricate and modify things. I just really wish what L&W would have done is wanted to work with me more on correcting the issue. It's awesome that they gave me a partial refund, 50% for those arms. That's awesome. Thank you guys very much. If you watch this, that's great. I just wish that, like, man, these are our products. We want this guy to advertise for us and, you know, brag to his buddies to get more sales for us and all this other crap. I'm not gonna do that. After this, you know, interaction that I've had with them, I'm gonna tell everybody to stay away from their products. That's where I'm at. I'm sorry, but all right, let's get into all of this. You get to see what I did, the issues I ran into, and the issues and issues and issues, and what was damaged, and more issues, and then me trying to be creative and doing R&D. And I am not an engineer. I was just trying to save some parts on the machine. It's not working out. There's not even anywhere to put the brake lines, so I just zip tied them on there. The factory arms have got all these spots, and I didn't feel like drilling and tapping and bolting and all that stuff. I feel like that should have already been done. All right, our first trip out in the Pro R, we did 40 miles, I think, 42 miles. We had a little bit of carnage today. Let me show you. Remember I was complaining about these arms not having any way to tie those down? Well, those zip ties freaking broke, smashed the crap out of that brake line. Thankfully I just smashed it, didn't cut it. So I need a new brake line. I need to re-anchor those. And here is the carnage, and here is why. So this brake line got smashed, so at full droop, these arms do not have a stop. So see how that tire buries into the arm? Well, that brake line got sacrificed. You see this nice silver mark on the wheel? Yeah, that's where the wheel interferes with the upper arm. See? There's where it interferes. This one, I had the brake line rolled down just enough that it wasn't a problem, but yeah, it got into the zip tie there. So L&W did not make stops on the arms to reduce it from interfering. So not only did I chew up a brake line, I also am grinding material away from the wheels after just 40 miles. See that? Isn't that great? Super great. And me making clearance on the axle shafts was not enough. I just noticed something interesting as I was tightening those bolts. Look at this axle shaft. It is in contact with the lower A arm at full droop, and so is this one. So that's not really what you want. Hopefully it's because the alignment's out. I have this so that it is cambered all the way in because I haven't set it on the ground yet. So maybe once you space that out, that would increase this and pull that away from there. Maybe. We gotta take the front suspension back apart again. We haven't even used it yet. So I put spacers in here, and even with those spacers in there, this thing is still touching that weld down at the bottom, see? Where there's no light. So then what I did is I pulled this far apart. So like that, which is further than it really should go, because then the nut's only like one thread on there. And with that, now see there's a little bit of a gap, but it is like, I don't know, a 32nd of an inch maybe. So with as much as these CV axles, yeah, see, I can move it. That thing's gonna wear a groove in the axle, so I gotta take it back apart and shave a little bit of material off of right there. It's really where that weld is at. And then I'm gonna get with L&W and tell them, hey, you probably should fix this before you send them out, because this is annoying. All right, so you can see where, let me get a flashlight. The axle was already hitting. See the chip and the powder coat already in between those two silver lines? And I rotated the axle, but see all these? That's just from me moving the suspension up and down, trying to assemble all this. So I'm gonna take a flapper wheel and grind that down. Probably take a little bit more material than flush out of there, and then put it back together and see what it looks like. So that's definitely annoying. So I gotta do that with both sides. So this side's still, I didn't do anything with it yet, but I'll go remove some material from that. And then my really expensive A-arms are gonna have an area that don't have any powder coat on them already. And I didn't even bash it off on the rocks yet. Dang it. This right here is where the axle is hitting. You could see where it was rubbing there. So I'm gonna grind this down. I did notice on the other side I ground it down, reassembled it, and it's still close. So I'm gonna take even more material out of this than I did on the other side. Hopefully that is good. I took that so it's completely smooth. This side is reassembled. It's very hard to see in there with it assembled, but there is a tiny gap in there. See how you can see the light shining through? Not very much. So I think what I'll do is once I set the camber up, then I will run it at full droop and just see if it starts grooving into that axle, and then come back to it and see what other, however else I can correct it. So it was hitting, the axle is hitting right in here. So where that silver mark is on the side of it. I need to take this weld out a little bit. All right, me and Dad just did an alignment on this. We did toe and camber in the front, and then we did camber in the rear. So the front is actually 2 degrees positive camber, and the rear we got right at 0. We didn't want to take any more out on the front, because then that makes this axle shaft way closer to that when it's at full droop. So see right now there's like 3/4 of an inch gap. Well, when it's at droop there's not. You see how there's a mark there? That's because it's rubbing. Do that. And I was just talking with Dad, and since it barely has any clearance right now, like you've seen in the video when I clearance that out, if a piece of dirt or a little tiny rock gets in there, it's going to get caught. And I imagine that's why there's only this one section that has got the powder coat rubbed off, is because a piece of rock or something got caught in there, and then it just drove it through until it shot out the other side, and then it was self-clearanced. So it looks like I may be taking this crap apart again to clearance this even further. So that's annoying. But we got a new brake line. We're going to figure out proper routing of the brake line so that it isn't in the way of stuff. And then fix this side before this side becomes a problem. And then we want to take it out again next weekend. Or this coming weekend. We got 5 whole days. Here's a closer look with the wheel off. So this right there is where this part of the wheel is hitting. And then all of this is where the rubber of the tire is rubbing. So this was right there. You can see where the zip tie mark was right here. And it about sheared it, but it didn't. So I'm almost wondering, would it be weird to make the brake line follow the tie rod? Because this distance never changes here. So that could be snug. I don't know. Because where we had it was like this. And this rubs on the wheel at full droop there unless you hold it down. Because this right here, there's like no clearance between the wheel and that. So it can't be above that. And it clearly can't be there. But I think before I do anything with this brake line, I think I'm going to take this apart and clearance where these axles are at. Because I know I need to do that anyways. And it doesn't make sense to zip tie these all in there and then have to cut them right back off. I already took a marker and marked that. And I'm just going to take way more material off. But I got to take all of this apart. Remember that disaster? Yeah. So that should be fun. So I'll start there. This side is all taken apart. You could see where I had painted that. Remember, I ground this down quite a bit. So you can see where that axle was interfering. So that's on the arm. And that's on the CV where it's grooved out right there. So I took a paint marker and I marked this on either side of the axle. I think what I'm going to do, because we need more clearance clearly. And then I also took a paint pen there because from here all the way up was close to the axle. So I need to take material down from here all the way up to there and in that spot. So this is what it looks like taken apart on this side. This side is not. So you can see that paint mark that I marked in there. And then how close that CV is there. So we're going to fix that problem first, and then we're going to look into what do we have to do to fix the wheel hitting, because this indication right here is where the inner lip of the wheel hit. So that's what that looks like. It just grinds aluminum off of there. It's actually rubbing it. So it's really nice that the wheels are destroyed from that. I mean, I wanted to destroy them by bouncing them off of rocks, not by steering. So that's silly. All right, so we're gonna get the grinder out, grind some material out. I'm gonna do way more than I did before. Before I was being careful, but I don't want to screw with it again. So I'm taking way more material out of there than I did last time. You can kind of see where I ground it out in here, a little bit in there, down to here, because you could see where the flapper wheel was at. Did it hit there too? No. That was when I was grinding. I think I hit that. Oh. So you can see why that weld was there is because that's where a couple pieces of material go together. So I'm gonna have to fill that in so that we don't have this crack in there. I took a bunch off of there, and then I'm really just trying to focus on here. I don't need to remove material here. The CV axle runs right here. So just trying to focus on taking that out. So I think what I'm going to do is take even more material out because I don't want to do it again. And then I'll backfill that and then smooth the weld back out. That's what I'm going to do for that one. I took a lot of material out of there. Wow, you can really see it more. Yeah, you took a lot out of there. Did I get this side pretty good? Yeah. That looks like it. It is much better. There's at least an 1/8 inch, if not more, clearance in there now. And that's at its worst case scenario. So it's way better than it was. You could see plenty of light all the way around it. hard to see in there, but
well, everything's black.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the most clearance you've had.
So this is what this side looks like. Just hard to see. This is what this side looks like. Yeah, that's super tight. So passenger side, that part of it's done.
This one's actually got more weld up here. Man, you're going to take a lot out of there.
I feel like I took way more material off of this side than I did the other side.
Yeah, this one had a bit of a different shape to it.
Here's the driver's side. Way more clearance than it had. All the way down. So now the next thing, we got the driver and the passenger side together. The next thing that we're looking at is how do we limit the steering so that the wheel doesn't bury into right there. Because right now this is full lock passenger and the wheel would hit right there. Here's a factory arm, and see those little flags on there? That's what that, and then the other corner is supposed to hit. So we've just got to recreate and remake those. So it's a good thing I have the factory arms that we could look at still. We're gonna do some engineering. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some CAD here. Cardboard aided design, so I need to find some cardboard. I'm gonna make some templates of these. Just this little triangle piece. Make templates of that. Make 4 of those guys. Try and fit them up to our L&W arms. L&W, I'm pretty disappointed with you guys. Anyways. And we'll see if we can fat this up and get rid of our issues with when we're turning, the wheels are hitting stuff, destroying brake lines, destroying the wheels, destroying the arms, just destroying things. We're gonna mitigate that problem. Cardboard aided design. We found some cardboard paper. We, traced it, made a little template guy. Cut the template out a little big because it's easier to make it smaller than it is to make it bigger. Cut that out. Took that guy. Traced it on here 4 times. We got 2 arms. We got 2 per arm. 2 times 4 is at least 4. Wait a second. 2 times 2 is 4. Right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, now we got to cut those out. Clean them up a little bit. Probably gonna have to clean up the arms and tack them on there and steer it and see what happens. Because I want to put the wheels on there and make sure that we limit the travel so it doesn't make it so we have 0 turning radius, but so the wheel doesn't hit the arm. That is what we're doing right now. So the idea is those stops are going to go here. Okay, I didn't record it, but I just had the passenger tire on, turned it as far as it would go, and I left about 3/16 of an inch play here. And I got that one just tacked in there, so it's on the bump stop. So now I need to take these lug nuts out, put a wheel on here, turn it so it's 3/16 away from here, and tack a stop right there. And then once I have those good, then I'll put a little stop back here. This way when it's turning, the back of one knuckle and the front of the other knuckle will be up against the stop, so it isn't pressure on one knuckle to reduce all of the steering. All right, I have the steering stops tacked on there, passenger and driver side, just the front. So that's what it looks like tacked on there. So it's steered all the way over to the passenger side right now, and you can see it's hitting that stop. See? And this isn't a clearance issue when it's turned that way, but if you look at this side, that's where the clearance issue is. Let's see how there's a gap between there now. So there's actually about 3/16. It's just hard to get the camera in there. It's about the best I can get you. We got about 3/16 of an inch gap there. So let's crank it over to the other side. So now it's up against this stop. And our wheel gap is about the same, about 3/16. So the tire still rubs a little, but remember at full droop, that's when it's the closest. So usually at full droop, it's not gonna be, I mean, you're not gonna be there a whole lot when you're crawling and stuff, whatever, but you're gonna have some slower tire speed, I would hope. But I have them tacked there, so I think now what I wanna do, take the wheels right back off, and then I need to sand this down here, so the back side of the arms, and put the other stops in there. So the provision in the wheel is that spot right there is where the stop's supposed to hit. So that is where it hits on the factory arms. So we're just recreating that. Oh, almost lost it. We're just recreating that with the L&W arms. I got the tires back on. All 4 of the stops are tacked on there. So here's what the steering looks like. It did limit it quite a bit, but it's all because we're trying to get this to not hit anymore. So that's what the front one looks like when it's steered away from it on the driver's side. This is what it looks like when it's steered into it. And then this one, so that both of them stop at the same time. I think they did that so that there's not uneven pressure on the steering rack, so it's not like pulling on one side and pushing on the other. It has a solid stop for both sides of the steering rack. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. I want to cycle back and forth a couple times and just make sure everything looks good with where it's hitting the knuckle. I did get smarter with these ones on the back and I rounded them off a little bit more. I did not do that with the ones in the front very well. But I can probably do that with them on there. But my next thing is I need to be careful. I don't want to put a ton of heat in those ball joints because I don't want to destroy them. So I'm probably going to have to stitch it, cool it, stitch it, cool it. I don't want to roast those ball joints, but I like the way that it looks with those stops in there right now. Much better, because then we got clearance there. So you see the light between the wheel and the arm? Right where the wheel lip is at. Before that was touching, and that's why the wheel looks like that. Really nice wheels. Glad that chewed it up. I mean, we're going to be bouncing it off of rocks and stuff, so the outsides are going to get beat up at some point, but it's really annoying when aftermarket Joe Cool Guy parts that you put on there are the problem. Ta-da! They're done and they're fully welded. We did the best we could to try and keep everything as cool as possible. And then I ground down the real ugly parts. But that's done. We got the bump stops in there. We got the brake lines on there and rerouted. And we just set it down off of the lift. We got brakes bled and everything. So what I did for the brake lines is I ran them up the tie rod. And then up here I ran them to the A-arm. So we made sure that at full lock at droop and then full lock at ride height that it was good. So Dad's gonna move it because right now it's in monster truck mode, so that we can see it settle, and then we can turn it and see what the steering is with it at ride height and make sure it's hitting the stops and everything's good for this weekend. Okay. I'm supposed to start it? Yeah, you have to hit the brake though, because if it doesn't see the brake, then it won't start. So drive forward and just kind of rock the steering wheel back and forth so the suspension settles. So then go lock to lock. Go the other way. Well, this side's good. This side's a little tight. Alright, go the other way. Go back. Seems thing is it zip tied, so if it doesn't like it, the zip ties will just break off. So maybe I'll throw some zip ties in the toolbox. All right, I think we're done with that. I really hate these frickin' L&W arms. So we put those stops on there, and at full droop, I put the stops into place so that the wheel wouldn't hit the arm anymore. Well, now the problem is when the suspension settled, you barely have any turning radius. Freaking turning radius is like a school bus. I don't know if I'm gonna have to put limit straps on this to limit the ground travel of the suspension so that it can't go down enough to make the arm come into a bind to the wheel, or what. Well, let me show you what's happening. So this is full steering lock. See? Plenty of clearance there, but it ain't even enough to freaking do anything useful with. The turning radius is atrocious. And the reason why it is because now it has these stops on there, which we put the stops on there for a reason, to limit it from binding, but I don't know. I want to put it back on the lift. I might try and take a little bit of material off, but I am so disappointed in these arms. Once again, look at how many miles we have on this machine. 49.2. That's it. And look at the steering radius. So that center, locked. Locked. So disappointed with this. Alright, you can see where that's hitting right there for the stop. So I'm going to take a little bit of material off of there. And then on this side it's hitting right there. So I'm going to take just a tiny bit of material off of that. Same thing with these ones. Just a little bit of material off to try and gain a little bit of steering radius. I rounded these corners off quite a bit on both sides, front and rear, to try and gain us a little bit more steering. So I need to put the wheels back on there and then see what it looks like for clearance there. It's all back together. I actually took it back apart twice more and took a little bit more material out of it. So let me show you what it looks like. I did not paint it because I'm not confident that that's going to be perfect, but I took material off all four corners until I got better steering radius, and then basically the wheel is all the way up against the arm again, but not touching from what I can tell. So we're going to take it out tomorrow and go play in the snow. That's why it's got the snow tires on there. I know you guys are going to say they're mud tires, but they do good in the snow. They really churn up the dirt too. Look at, see? They just destroy everything that they touch. So steering radius is better, still not great. I need to torque the lug nuts down. I just remembered that. I should do that real quick. Not me. He's also complaining about the steering. It's because of those stops I put on those L&W arms. I gotta take a little more material out. All right, you've seen the video. We took this out for its second trip, and in that trip we determined that these are still limiting the steering too much. So I'm really kind of deciding if I want to keep these arms or not, because even with it limiting the steering, it's still, the tires still hit these upper arms. It's like when they designed it, this arm was not at the right location, and at full droop it actually has more steering because of the way the steering geometry works. When it's at ride height, it has less steering angle, which is annoying. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm gonna put the factory arms back on it. And the Off-Road Beast has some boxed lowers that work with the factory uppers. Kind of thinking that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm done screwing with these L&W ones. Now, given I put these steering locks on here myself, and the reason is because the factory wheels got into right there on the arm and chewed the crap out of the wheels. Like, it took, referencing these other factory wheels that I have, it took almost 3/16 of an inch of material off the back of these. Here's the rear. Didn't contact anything. So it's got like a nice little round rib on this that sticks past the rubber on the tire. Look at this one. Sharp, flat edge. And the tire actually sticks out past the wheel now. So it took quite a bit of material off, and that was after a 40-mile trip. Just super disappointed with this company. Tried working with them, told them the concerns that I was having. They responded with, well, what do you want us to do about it? Just, I don't know. I want you to stand behind your product, maybe try and retain a customer. I don't know, do something. I will say that they did give me a refund. So, because I responded to them, I was like, I'm willing to work with you to try and resolve this problem. You know, this is something I'm running into. I'm happy to share pictures, videos, whatever. They didn't respond with wanting to know anything about that. So after emailing back and forth, I finally just told them, well, I want a refund. And they asked me how much I wanted, which I guess I could have told them 100%, but I was trying to not be greedy about it and figured, well, just give me half of my money back that I paid for these arms, since I'm doing my own research and development on them. No problem. Oh, they sent me my money back. So that's cool. That's cool that they did that. But I don't know. At this point, it's not even about the money. It's just about, like, sticking behind your product. I don't know. I'm so freaking frustrated with this. I put these stops on here to try and help prevent more wheel damage, but now it's just reducing steering so much that it's obnoxious to drive it. So I think I'm at a point where I'm just going to order the Off-Road Beast lowers that'll work with the factory uppers, and then I'll probably just order 4 new ball joints, because then I'll press these ball joints out twice, and I don't know that I want to screw with that. Have a machine that's brand new, well, it's got 60 miles on it, with ball joints that have been pressed out and pressed back in. Ball joints are fine being pressed in. Pressed out, you start expanding the cup a little bit when you do that. So I don't know. That's my experience with L&W front arms. I did find something else. So the rear radius arms are killer. These things are great. Super beefy. This is at full droop. They don't interfere. These things seem great. The sway bar links, however, they get into a bind. So those are coming back off of there. They don't even have enough articulation to freely pivot. So when it's at full droop, it's good, but when it's at ride height, which is set up with my MTS spring, so it's at the right height, they're actually in a bind. So that was the noise I was hearing when I was driving, that it just, every time you got to transfer from left to right, it would clunk. It's those arms. So the factory ones are going to go back on there. Those are going to come off. And I finally did receive the L&W high clearance trailing arms, because remember, I bought everything L&W. I figured, well, you know, these guys make some beefy material. These things look legit. I shouldn't have a problem. But they're still sitting here on the floor because I'm reluctant to try and put them on there. Because what issues am I going to run into with these? I don't know. Maybe I won't run into any issues. But I think you could tell my frustration with this company with these arms. Especially given that I'm planning on taking them right back off. I don't know.